Let's look at the subtraction of integers. Okay, let's look at this example. Let's say you have 2 minus 2, and that we know is 0. You have 2 cookies and you eat 2 of them, so then you have no cookies left. Okay, so that's easy enough. But we can expand this 2 minus 2 to this 2 minus and brackets 2. Okay, that still stays 0. Then we can write this as 2 subtracting 2 cookies. Okay, positive 2 cookies. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so but let's look at the following. Let's say you add the additive inverse of 2. Okay, we know that is 0 because negative 2 is the opposite of 2. It's the opposite of 2. And this together makes 0. So now you can see to subtract positive 2 and to add negative 2, it is exactly the same. So we can basically write it like this. Subtracting positive 2, it is the same as adding negative 2. This means exactly the same. 2 subtracting positive 2 and 2 adding negative 2. Now let's apply this to more complicated addition and subtraction sums, specifically adding or subtracting negative numbers. Okay, so let's look at this following example. Let's say you have negative 2, and we're adding to that, or rather subtracting negative subtracting positive 3. Okay, so what are we going to do here? Well, first of all, we must realize to say you subtract positive 3, that means exactly the same as negative 2 adding negative 3. Okay, this is what we saw here. You can do that. Okay, subtracting positive 3 is the same as adding negative 3. Now if you look at a number line again, so let's say we're going to start our number line at negative 2, and then it's negative 1 and 0, 1 and 2. Then we start at negative 2 and we're adding negative 3. Well, we actually need to go to the left, don't we? So it's negative 3, negative 4, and then we'll have negative 5. Okay, so let's say you have negative 2 and then you're adding negative 3. So in a sense you're looking to the right hand side, but then you're jumping back 3 spaces. So it's 1, 2, 3. So you're ending at negative 5. So your answer is negative 5. Let's look at another example. Okay, so let's say you have negative 2. Okay, and this time we have subtracting negative 3. Now first of all, you probably noticed there that to say subtracting positive 3, okay, subtracting positive 3 is the same as adding negative 3. So you see you sort of change the signs, don't you? So when we do this and apply it to this sum, we can say it's negative 2 is the same as adding the additive inverse, and that is positive 3. Okay, so negative 2 plus 3. This is what this means then. Okay, so let's do that. Now later on it will be easier to say negative times a negative, and that's a positive. We'll get to that later on. But for now, understand the logic behind what we are doing here, especially when dealing with this on a number line. So when we have now negative 2 here, negative 2 and then negative 1 and 0 and then 1 and 2, we have you start at a negative 2 and you add the 3 and you end with 1. So your answer is just a positive 1. Okay, let's look at another example and see if we understand these adding and subtracting of integers. Okay, this is now going to be the last example. So let's say you have 6 minus 3 and positive 7 minus negative 5. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, first of all, Um, this this negative 3, we can say it's the same as adding a negative 3, isn't it? It means the same thing. We saw that in previous examples. And then you have adding 7, and then we saw that if you subtract negative 5, it's the same as adding the additive inverse, and that is just positive 5. Okay, so now we can say it's 6, and if we reshuffle this, it's 6 plus 7 plus 5 plus negative 3. So then you have 6 plus 7 is 13 plus 5, that will be 18 plus negative 3, so that will be 18, and that will just be plus minus 3, and the result is then just 15. And that's how you add and subtract integers, specifically subtracting into the integers in these examples.